But let me stop you there, oh, before you speak. I to the I to the no, no, no. My name is no, my sign is no, my number is no. You need to let it go, you need to let it go, need to let it go. I to the no, no, no. My name is no, my sign is no, my number is no. You need to let it go, you need to let it go, need to let it go. I to the no, no, no. What you gonna say? You ain't running game, thinking I believe in every word. Call me beautiful, so original, telling me I'm not like other girls. I was in my zone before you came along. Now I'm thinking maybe you should go. Blah, blah, blah. I be like, nah, to the I, to the no, no, no. All my ladies, listen up. If that boy ain't giving up, lick your lips and swing your hips, girl. All you gotta say is, my name is no, my sign is no, my number is no. You need to let it go, you need to let it go, need to let it go. Down to the I, to the no, no, no. My name is no, my sign is no, my number is no. You need to let it go, you need to let it go, need to let it go. Down to the I, to the no, no, no. Thank you in advance, I don't wanna dance. Nope. I don't need your hands all over me. No, no. If I want a man, then I'ma get a man. But it's never my priority. Hey. I was in my zone before you came along. Don't want you to take this personal. Blah, blah, blah. I be like, nah, to the I, to the no, no, no. All my ladies, listen up. Ladies. If that boy ain't giving up, lick your lips and swing your hips, girl. All you gotta say is, my name is no, my sign is no, my number is no. You need to let it go, you need to let it go, need to let it go. Down to the I, to the no, no, no. My name is no, my sign is no, my number is no. You need to let it go, you need to let it go, need to let it go. Down to the I, to the no, no, no. I'm feeling untouchable, untouchable. I'm feeling untouchable, untouchable. I'm feeling untouchable, untouchable. I'm feeling, hey, 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 feeling untouchable, untouchable. I'm feeling untouchable, untouchable. I'm feeling untouchable, untouchable. I'm feeling no, 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 hey. All my ladies, listen up. If that boy ain't giving up, lick your lips and swing your hips, girl. All you gotta say is, my name is no, my sign is no, my number is no. You need to let it go, you need to let it go, need to let it go. Down to the I, to the no, no, no. My name is no, my sign is no, my number is no. You need to let it go, you need to let it go, need to let it go. Down to the I, to the no, no, no. Untouchable, 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 untouchable. Down to the I, to the no, 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 no.
What is that? Take heat, fuck these niggas up.
Coachella, boots with the gold feathers. I brought the squad with me. Black on black bandanas. I say it's champagne. I did the damn thing. Dirty Diana, singing and dancing all in the rain. Ooh, I just wanna have a good time. Turn around, kick inside, and twirl that ass to the right now. Ooh, funny how drop, drop. Cross your legs, turn around and clap. Shuffle to the left, let's glide now. Ooh, drop it down low, 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 low to the floor. Bring it up, tap and roll. Step on, step on, step on, step, step on, kick on, something you step. Swag the right, serve the left, work the middle till it hurt a little.
See you struggling, promise you'll find love again. It will be alright. Why are you so hard on yourself? Why you gotta try so hard, counting calories and carbs, another trip across the world. I go so hard trying to make you feel just like a queen. You don't need a camera to make a scene. We're going like that, no Maybelline. When you first wake up, you're bad to me. Pop another Addy, no sleep tonight. Can't push the whistle on feet and right. Over to the crib cause we need this life, but you take so long making up your mind. Little black dress, be your back. You leave 10 times, I'll take you back. Why you wanna look like someone else? Why you so hard on yourself? I can see you struggling, promise you'll find love again. It will be alright. Why are you so hard on yourself? Try not to fall apart, you're perfect just the way you are. It will be alright. Why are you so hard on yourself? Why you gotta compare our lives to pics you see on your timeline? Another shot of Hennessy. I try so hard not to act like a dick when I'm around your friends. Mood swings up and down again. Hollywood Hills where we play pretend. No one happy but they're good at faking it. Hoping the party show face tonight. I don't really smoke but I need the vibe. She let it get high, she needs.
Welcome to the 2020 GCAPP Youth Empowerment Summit. Please welcome your MC from CBS 46, Atlanta's own Astrid Martinez.
Hey guys, I am so excited to be here at the Youth Empowerment Summit. As you just heard, I'm your host, Astrid Martinez. I am the host of a segment on CBS 46 News called Astrid in the ATL. And what's so great about being a journalist, one, is obviously doing things like this, meeting you guys, doing events for the community. And as a journalist, I get to meet so many people and some of my own favorite heroes and icons. And one of them is Jane Fonda, who I've loved as an actress for many years. So I've attended her empowerment party for the last 3 years as a journalist, interviewing her. And then little by little, I got to know GCAPP. She's the founder of this. She started it 25 years ago. And she introduced me to Ronald McNeil, the president and CEO. And they host this summit every single year for you guys. So besides loving her work, what I really just came to find out in the last 3 years was this amazing work that she's doing for the youth in Georgia. And actually, you know, CBS 46 runs here in Georgia. I've been here for the last 5 years, and I've really seen how much her work helps teens. I'm a mother myself, so it's just really important for us. We don't always have all the answers, so it's really nice to have all this information for me so I can share with you guys and, of course, my own teenage daughter, who sometimes feel that maybe I'm too old to give her information. So this really kind of helps me be on her level. I have a real appreciation for the organization because they really help guide our teens, give them information that maybe they haven't learned yet, or they get advice from other people and it's not the right one. So this really kind of just, clears everything up. It talks about us being centered mind, body, and spirit. We talk about the overall well-being of teens. We're concerned about the issues that you guys face today, like anxiety. I know I go through that too, emotional well-being, academic pressure, and just really getting through high school and into college, getting a job. I went through all of that. And, finally I have one too, but, those stresses continue. So we're concerned about everything, how you guys are feeling about your healthy relationships, your identity, and peer pressure. I know you guys go through so much of that. Teens go through so much social media danger. So we want to really touch on all of that today. Whatever it is that you need, we want to be here for you, give you that information, navigate you through adolescence, and just become really healthy adults. And that's why GCAPP exists. So I'm really happy, first of all, that you guys are all here on a Saturday. I see the number of people attending. That is awesome that you guys are sharing your Saturday morning with you. So with us. So thank you so much for that. I also want to let you guys know that please stick around throughout the rest of the show and towards the end, because we have a chance for you guys to win some buy gift cards, and they range all the way from $50 to $500. We have some special guests for you, and also one incredible thing that one of you are going to win a chance to have a 2021 virtual internship to GCAPP. So that is incredible. You have a whole year of learning with some of the most amazing, teachers, counselors here in our state. So who's ready to get things started? I hope you are. I wanted to talk to you about so many things today. But let's start all with the promotion, what this summit is all about. Who's going to be here? Do you guys ever watch the show Blackish? I hope that you guys do. It is incredible. So we've asked one of the lead actors on the show to come talk to you guys today. Tracy Ellis Ross is here from Blackish. So I want to have her actually talk to you guys first, because I don't want to be the only one talking to you. So Tracy, take it away.
For me, it's really gaining a relationship. I would suggest gaining and cultivating and working on a relationship with yourself. What is it that you enjoy? I mean, when I was younger, I felt so uncomfortable in my skin. And it still comes up much less than it used to, but as if I was supposed to be something else. And part of it was I had no idea what I liked, what made me feel good. And it's so different for everybody. So for me, it was I would suggest this idea of discovering what makes you giggle. What could you do and get lost doing for hours where time doesn't seem like a thing? And the other part of knowing myself is actually really letting myself have the feelings that I'm having when I'm having them. Because crying when I want to cry. And it's not so easy, because a lot of, kids, you don't have a safe, quiet space that is your own. But see if you can find space for yourself to be able to cry when you need to cry, laugh when you need to laugh, and express that you feel upset or angry or frustrated about things, because I think those all get stuck in your body in ways that start to confuse messages, because you're not sure which thing you're listening to. That particularly in this pandemic, and then with this new wave of the civil rights movement that is just an extension of what has been happening, this new racial reckoning that we are in, that the anxiety and the fear comes up. And often when we let go of things that we're used to doing, the routine, the regular routine, you're left with a sort of an unknowingness, which can be read as anxiety really easily. And I have found that taking action, being teachable, looking to those who have walked ahead of me, and being curious has actually helped to lessen the anxiety. And I share that with people because often when you're anxious, you just don't know what to do. How do you make it go away? And so what I have been using this exercise, and you keep talking about our bodies, and the grief in our bodies, where in my body is the anxiety? Where exactly does it live? And I ask it a question, and it allows me to let the anxiety inform good action, and it's really helpful. And so I offer that also as a tool to people to communicate with yourself and literally have a relationship with your body, your heart, and your mind the way you would with another person, the way you would compassionately engage with someone younger than you, your younger sister, your younger brother, whoever that may be, or your best friend, you know, how you would talk to them. So I'm grateful for that suggestion, even for the adults in the room.
Thank you so, oh my God, I love that message because it's so important when people share their personal experience. A lot of times we think that when we're feeling something, we're weird or we're different, we're alone. So thank you, Tracy, for that. That is such a powerful and really practical message that we can use every single day. I think there's something in there for all of us, for teens, for adults, for, you know, we're sitting here with so much time sometimes, you know, just thinking. So it really helps us to guide through that thinking process and what to do with everything we're feeling. Okay. I have a presentation for you, ladies and gentlemen. It is about teen dating violence. Sometimes we might not recognize it, or we might watch movies or see things in our community that we think are acceptable or normal, but it is a huge problem. And it's important to recognize the signs of when things are starting off bad and can get off potentially dangerous for both boys and girls. And they both report physical violence in dating relationships. We've seen, you know, as a journalist, I see a lot of this. I see a lot of stories. It's the highest right now. I just want to give you some information so you can know it's the highest among women 16 to 24 years old. So our first presenter is Janani Shriyanthan. She's the coordinator for dating violence prevention with the Partnership Against Domestic Violence. So Janani, please take it away. I want to hear what you have to say.
Hello, everybody who's out here today for GCAPP's Yes Summit. I am so excited to be back here again for 2020. My name is Jen Shujayanthan. I am the coordinator of dating violence prevention at Partnership Against Domestic Violence. So PADV is really proud to partner with GCAPP a lot. The agency operates 2 emergency shelters for survivors of intimate partner violence throughout Fulton and Gwinnett counties. We provide case management and supportive services to survivors. And we also have a really robust prevention and outreach division in which we go out into the community to share health education, to advocate for survivors, and talk about why we need to end intimate partner violence. The Teen Dating Violence Prevention Program, which I'm very proud to be a part of, focuses primarily on middle school, high school, and college age students, and talking about what dating violence is, what's healthy versus unhealthy in a relationship, and how young folks can stay safe while they date and also keep their community members safe as well. So once again, my name is Jen Shujayanthan. I am very excited to be here today, and I am going to be speaking with you all today about gender justice and how we can use gender justice to eliminate teen dating violence and uphold equity for all. So let's get started. So to kind of start us off today, we'll need a basic understanding of what gender justice is. So I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard about the other different forms of liberation work that exist currently. There's racial justice work, there is economic justice work, there's housing justice work, and we're really proud to be at PADV and also within the larger movement is doing gender justice work. So we're going to define gender justice as the overall movement to end patriarchy, transphobia, homophobia in this world, and to create one that is free from misogyny. So the gender justice framework is really awesome because it's not really about focusing on what is gender and who is what gender and stuff like that, but it's basically a framework to provide work and spaces so that gender doesn't have to determine anyone's value or worth. And it furthermore is not a barrier to opportunities and your ability to thrive, which is as we've seen historically, unfortunately. So there's a lot of different platforms within gender justice. We have economic justice, we have reproductive justice and freedom, we have trans and LGBTQ liberation, which is freedom for folks that identify with the lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, trans, etc. communities. But one other section of it, which we are all here, is the anti-violence space. So what does it mean to be free from gender-based violence? So historically, y'all have probably heard about the feminist movement and the different waves of it, but the overall focus of that was to have a grassroots attempt to end intimate partner violence, also known as domestic violence at the time, within our communities. Obviously, the movement has taken off and we have had so many rapid responses created. We have so many programs and organizations throughout the country that do this work. But what's really special, especially about gender justice in the gender-based violence space, is we're not only looking at where men abuse women, we're also looking at where women abuse men. We're looking at it within the different contexts of marginalized populations, which is something I hope y'all are able to take away today. So kind of talking about this, you guys are probably wondering, okay, well, if this is gender justice, what is feminism? Which is a really great question. So gender justice is feminism in a yes and but kind of way. While it is feminism, as this above quote shows, folks who identify with gender justice acknowledge that at best, the mainstream feminist movement has struggled to have inclusive spaces for folks on the basis of race, class, sexuality, or gender identity. Furthermore, the mainstream feminist movement may have not really looked at these different forms of oppression in line with also women's oppression or gender oppression. At the worst, the feminist movement has explicitly rejected women of color, poor women, lesbians, trans women, etc. And what we're trying to do with the gender justice framework is to take the work that we do within the anti-violence space and make it more inclusive, because we know at the end of the day that intimate partner violence is not necessarily just a woman's issue. So to kind of start talking today about why we are all here, so I wanted to kind of start off with a definition of teen dating violence. So teen dating violence is a pattern of controlling and abusive behaviors that someone uses against their intimate partner. And your intimate partner could be your boyfriend, girlfriend, you might just call them your partner, etc. It's somebody that you are in some sort of relationship with that isn't necessarily platonic anymore. Furthermore, when we're looking at teen dating violence, it doesn't have to have sexual activity for it to be qualifying as teen dating violence. As you will see in this presentation, there's a lot of different types of abusive and controlling behaviors that are used. And through a lot of research that has been done on this topic, they've actually been able to identify 8 core behaviors, which we are going to outline today. So to kind of start you guys off with an image of what teen dating violence looks like, we're looking at necessarily approximately 1 in 5 female high school students and 13% of male high school students reporting being physically or sexually abused by your dating partner. 8 out of 10 girls who have been physically abused by their dating partner continue to date their abuser, unfortunately, which we will also talk about the why in this training. And also 1 in 5 teens who have been in a relationship have said that their partner has threatened violence or self-harm when presented with a breakup, and that is why they didn't leave. Furthermore, when we're looking at marginalized youth, the National Youth Risk Behavior Survey, which is run every year by the CDC, indicates that African American teens are more likely to be hit, slapped, hurt by their boyfriends or girlfriends than are white or even Latino youth. This existed across the gender spectrum of how folks identified. Furthermore, transgender youth report the highest rates of physical dating violence at 88.9%, psychological dating abuse at 58.8%, cyber dating abuse 56.3%, and sexual coercion at 61.1%. Furthermore, when we compare LGBTQ youth as an overall category to heterosexual youth, we also still find higher rates of these abusive behaviors. So for example, in cyber dating abuse, we see rates at 37%, whereas in heterosexual youth, we'll see 26%. In physical abuse, we'll see 43%, whereas in heterosexual abuse, it drops down to almost half of that at 29%. Psychological, we see at 59% compared to 46%, and sexual coercion, we see 23% as compared to 12%, which is almost double again. What's really awesome about gender justice, which is kind of where we're going to take this training from the lens of, is that we are going to center the experiences of the most marginalized in order to make the work that we do the most effective. So I hope in this training today, you guys are able to get information and able to retain information that can help you take the skills that we provide here out into your communities to help folks that you know have additional barriers in getting out of these abusive relationships. So when we're talking about Georgia, Georgia actually has the 3rd highest percentage of teens that are experiencing physical abuse from their dating partner within high school settings alone. We see similar rates also in middle school, and we see high rates as well within the college setting, with I believe almost 1 in 5 college women saying that they have experienced abusive dating behavior during their time in higher ed. Furthermore, in Georgia, in cases of IPV that result in homicides, we find that almost 50% of female victims began relationships with abusers that later kill them between the ages of 13 to 24, which is why it's really important that we intervene early in cases of teen dating violence so they don't have the opportunity to snowball into homicide later in life. Furthermore, on a national level, of girls 15 to 19 that are murdered by homicide each year, 30% are killed by their husband or their boyfriend. So kind of to talk about these scary statistics, to make it a little bit more manageable, like I said earlier, there are 8 major behaviors that we see across different demographics that really focus on what type of abusive behaviors are present and also how they kind of emerge. So what we have here is the teen power and control wheel, which outlines these behaviors, but also showcases the interconnectedness behind them. Teen dating violence doesn't just emerge overnight. Teen dating violence also doesn't emerge suddenly. The cycle of violence that we see in a lot of these relationships operate on there's a period that is warm and great and happy, and then tensions escalate, and then there's a violent incident. And then it goes back into this honeymoon stage where an abuser will try to gather sympathy and try to even gaslight you. And then survivors find themselves back into the same situations again. So what we're kind of going to do next is talk about these different behaviors so that y'all have an idea of different types of flags to look out for yourselves and also for your friends. So there's a multitude of different categories of abusive behavior. For example, we have sexual abuse, which is sexual activity without consent, which is willing, active, and unimpaired. We have emotional and verbal abuse. We have stalking, physical abuse, financial abuse even. And what's more prevalent, especially with COVID now, is digital abuse, which we will also get into today. So the first thing we see usually, not just like across the timeline, but when we usually talk about the circle, is anger and emotional abuse. So using put downs to say you're fat or ugly, telling you what you need to wear, making fun of you in front of your friends, and calling your phone and texting you excessively. We also see the use of peer pressure, so manipulating you by threatening to tell people about your secrets, telling lies about you to your mutual friends to humiliate you, and also letting you know that, if you go and tell your friends and make me look bad, we're going to stop dating. We also see behaviors of isolation and exclusion. So controlling what the partner does, who they see, who they talk to, refusing to trust you by acting jealous or possessive, trying to get you to not trust yourself or your friends, family. And they're also monitoring your location with digital abuse. We see that being more prevalent. We also see the use of social status. So a lot of the times people talk about gender norms, right? So if you're a boy, you're expected to act this way. And if you're a girl, you're expected to act this way. And when we look at using social status, we see abusers trying to force survivors to not act like them, but to act instead in the ideal gender role that they see. So for example, we'll see folks treating your partner as less than or like a servant, or they need to have a job to support you. You're expecting partners to stick to gender norms, punishing you for withholding affection and pressuring you in how you want to dress and present yourself. We especially see this last one in LGBTQ communities as young folks are trying to figure out their gender identity and their gender expression, and also on the sexuality side. We see abusive partners trying to take advantage of inexperience to then get you to further implicate yourself within that relationship. We see intimidation behaviors, so raising a fist when they're angry but not swinging, throwing objects, threatening to hurt you or hurting you or your friends, family, pets, or like using intimidating looks or gestures to make you afraid. We also see minimize, deny, or blame, which is also more commonly known as gaslighting. So usually it's hard to identify when you're being gaslit, because how that works is the abuser will try to minimize what your issue is, deny that it's their fault, and then they'll shift the accountability for what has been wronged onto you. So usually it's easier for folks to figure out if they have survived gaslighting by identifying if they are frequently making excuses for their partner's behavior, they're withholding information so you don't have to make excuses, and you feel just generally different than when you're with that person. We also see threats, so threatening to hurt you, hurt themselves. If you tell someone about the abuse, they'll hurt your family. Y'all should all know at the end of the day, if someone is having a mental health concern, the best thing you can do for that person, whether you think it's legitimate or not, is to go and tell a trusted adult. At the end of the day, mental health concerns, especially suicidal ideation, are really, really big things that professionals and adults would be able to work with that person to help them feel better and feel more comfortable in their skin. The best thing you can do in any sort of situation where suicide is brought up is to tell a trusted adult and to figure out what's the safest way to proceed next. We also see sexual coercion, so manipulating you into having sex, ignoring your needs to focus on their own, ignoring your boundaries to focus on your own. And we also see examples of birth control and pregnancy sabotage, so that abusers start to have you feel like you don't have control over your bodily autonomy, which is absolutely not okay. Furthermore, like I said earlier, we're seeing teen dating violence happen online, especially with COVID. We're seeing this at higher rates. We're seeing people using tech to monitor whereabouts, to sex, to demand passwords, to check your cell phones, to stalk you, etc. The one big thing I want to tell y'all is consent culture is not built into technology. Like when you download an app, they ask you once if you're cool with certain items being used, and usually it's not specific what those items are. And then you hit yes, and then for the rest of the time you use that app, like it's not, they don't check in with you, they don't make sure that you're still comfortable with it, etc. So when you're using tech and you're dating, you have to build in the consent culture yourself, because otherwise people can just find your location or figure out what you're doing or check your messages or check your passwords, etc. So to look at the different profiles of folks who abuse and folks who are victims, we try to look for warning signs, right? So the example I used to like to use with abusers is like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So at some phases, abusers might seem like they're smooth talkers, they're charismatic, they're great. But on the other side, they might get angry quickly. They might be jealous or possessive. They might demand things get really serious early in the relationship. If you have a friend that says that their partner is being abusive, but like your situation with that person, you would never think that they were terrible or mean or anything, at the end of the day, your experiences with that person can be very different than that other person. So if that person's coming to you saying that there's abuse, you should take those things seriously. Furthermore, we see red flags of abuse in survivors. So like mood changes in personality, constantly thinking or worrying about your dating partner, sudden changes in appearance, etc. Red flags for digital abuse also include telling your partner who you can or cannot be friends with online, using check-in capabilities, constant texting to lead you to feeling like you can't be on your phone without that person checking in on you, and looking through your messages and your texts. So the risk of violence is actually highest when folks are leaving relationships, which is why we stress the incredible importance of bystander intervention and safety planning. There's a number of different barriers, and obviously marginalized youth also experience higher ones. You might see barriers in you're just dating, comfortability, and like if you're new to dating, there are barriers of community and family and friends that might want you to stay with that person. You might feel that genuinely you're in love. You might also genuinely feel like you're scared for what will happen if you go. LGBTQ youth face additional factors as well surrounding people coercing them using coming out. So saying like, oh, I'll go and tell people that you're gay if you don't continue to date me. Or even telling people that like, you're not really a part of this community unless you're with me. You're not really this identity unless you're with me, which is definitely not true. We also see some legal barriers surrounding dating violence language and getting temporary protective orders. So the way it currently is in Georgia is that dating violence is not included into the definition of family violence. So it's really, really important, like especially with younger cases of IPV, of dating violence cases of IPV, to have strong community support to help that young person get out of the relationship in a safe manner. Bystander intervention, for example, is really great. So bystander intervention is when you recognize teen dating violence and safely take steps to act. So anonymous reporting, taking your friend away from the abuser, offering support and resources, and talking to a trusted adult. Gender justice is really important in bystander intervention, right? Because gender justice revolves around the stories of the folks who are the most marginalized. And usually for the folks that identify that way, community solutions are the best for them because it keeps them safe from, for example, any sort of mistrust or outside influence that they might not really be wanting to welcome in. So it's really important, especially to do this work in a gender justice framework, so that you are using community partners and you are using community resources to help people stay safe. There's a lot of different ways to talk to a friend. This is just some general tips that we have. So, don't feel like you have to ask a lot of yes or no questions. Don't be judgmental. Don't make them feel stupid or ashamed or force any decisions. Do let them know you're concerned. Do mention other people they want to talk to. Create a safety plan, which there are hundreds available online. And you're more than welcome to also contact our program to getting access to one. Here are some tips on ending the relationship. So doing it in a public place, setting up a support channel afterwards. The biggest thing with breaking up is that your body, your brain too, there's studies on this, like you go through the 5 stages of grief. So put your safety and feelings first, and any experiences you have with loss or grief, that's totally normal. So just make sure you have the social support to be able to get through it. Here are some pillars that we look for in healthy dating relationships: effective communication, expressed boundaries, shared power, respect, and self-esteem. If you're looking to do more work, please scan this QR code to join our Teens Against Dating Violence Advisory Board. They do a lot of really awesome work within high school and middle school communities to make dating safer for folks across Georgia. Furthermore, some helpful resources include the National Teen Dating Abuse Hotline, Love is Respect, Know Your 9, and you're always welcome to reach out to our PADV website. This is for victims compensation. If you are interested, please contact us. We can help you see your eligibility. And that is the end of my presentation today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening. I really appreciated the opportunity to come out and talk on this topic with you. If you have any further questions, I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys in the Q&A. But otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this time today and you leave today wondering what you can do to take a stand against dating violence. Thank you.
Oh, that was so incredible. Thank you so much, Gentry, for giving us all that information. I know for you guys, it's such a heavy topic, but I think the information that she gave us lets us know that there's people out there that have a lot of answers for us. We can have options when it comes to getting help. So, get a pen and pad. Sometimes we're gonna have more speakers and you're gonna wanna take notes. We're getting some really great information, guys. And I'm looking at the numbers here. Yes, you guys are sticking around. There's so many of you here on a Saturday afternoon. So I am so proud of you. Oh, thank you so much for joining us. Okay, I have another presentation for you, and it really is really relevant to what's going on today. There's a lot of social change going on in the world right now. And to be honest, in many ways, it's you guys who are leading the charge on this. I covered a lot of the protests this summer, and most of the people that I saw with the energy and passion to make a difference was the youth. So I was really impressed by that. And I think a lot of times teens want to know where they fit in or what can they do. So our next speaker, Montrese Ransom, she's a professor, an empowerment coach, and she's a belonging strategist. Right now, she's going to help us to answer those questions and many more. Montrese, take it away.
I remember so clearly being woken up on a Friday morning. And instead of rushing me through breakfast and rushing me out the door, my mother sat me down and began to do my hair. Now, what's important to know is that typically she would do my hair on a Sunday, and that hairstyle was meant to last all week long. This was a Friday, and she was doing my hair. And typically when she'd do my hair, she'd be super chatty. What are your friends up to? What's 2 times 58? What are you learning in school? But on this day, she was noticeably quiet. I could feel her hands, this perfect shade of chestnut brown, trembling as she parted my hair straight down the middle. And then she brings me my Sunday dress, like the Sundiest of Sunday dresses, all frilly and pink. And my little 4-year-old mind is really confused. It's not a church day, and you're not taking me to school. But that was the day that we married Lewis. And I always say we and our wedding when I tell this story, because they always made me feel like we were a team of three, like we belonged together. We stood in that tiny brown church in a tiny town right outside of Fort Polk, Louisiana, and we took our vows for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer. We walked hand in hand out to the car, my mother's 1976 silver Pinto pony. And I sat in the back seat, buckling and unbuckling my black patent leather Mary Janes, thinking about what just happened. The noon daylight shined in on my mother, her 70s bouffant hairdo, her beautiful brown skin and big brown eyes, and she was glowing. I looked to my left at Lewis in the driver's seat, 6 foot tall, head almost reaching the roof of the car. And it clicks. And I say to him, I can call you Dad now. That was the beginning of my belonging story. About a year after that, Lewis legally adopted me. About a year after that, I got my first school yearbook. And you know the feeling, exciting to scroll through the pages, trying to find your picture and see your name. Well, I found my picture and I saw my name. It said first name Montrese, last name Williams. And I remember a flood of disappointment running through me. And I went and I grabbed a Sharpie marker and I crossed it out and I wrote in my new last name. That was the name of the family that I belonged to. The yearbook got it wrong. That was a lesson in belonging for me. A sense of belonging is something you must create for yourself. You know, for the last couple of years, I've been studying and speaking and presenting workshops on this phenomenon of belonging. And I've come to learn that belonging is a basic human need. It's a sense of psychological safety and security that allows us to show up as our full, authentic selves. All of us, no matter our background, our ethnicity, our age, our gender identity, our race, we all have a need to feel a sense of belonging. Now, some of you may remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm going to nerd out on you for just a minute here. But Maslow was a human psychologist in the 1940s, and he said we have 5 basic needs as human beings. And he arranged those into a pyramid. At the bottom of that pyramid is our physiological needs. So our need for food and drink and our need for sleep. And once we've satisfied those needs, we move on to our need for physical safety, our need for shelter. And that sense of security gives us room and space to move on to fulfilling what he calls our higher order need of belonging. The need to belong is so important that we must satisfy that need before we can move on to fulfilling our need for self-esteem. And we've got to fulfill our need for self-esteem before we can move on to fulfilling our full potential, or as Maslow calls it, self-actualize. Belonging is a basic human need. I read an op-ed by Korean American actor John Cho, and he talked about his belonging story in that op-ed. And you may remember John Cho from the Harold and Kumar franchise. And he says in this article that as a child, his mother made him and his brother watch hours of television so that they could speak and act more like real Americans. And, you know, he went on to become a famous actor, probably because of all that TV watching, right? And he says that doors were open to him. People were kinder. And he felt a true sense of acceptance in this country. And then COVID-19 happened. And there was an onslaught of hate crimes and hate messages against people in the Asian American community. And it caused him to ask himself, is my belonging in this country conditional? Has my efforts to fit in been in vain? He says, one moment we're Americans, the next moment we're foreigners who brought the virus here. But Cho goes on to say, that he knows he belongs, because he knows a sense of belonging is something we must create for ourselves. He says that he has chosen or accepted the citizenship that his parents have chosen for him. He's an American. He's earned it. But the reality is, not all of us have to earn it, right? There is this implicit sense of belonging that comes with belonging to certain populations, particularly in this country, that sense of belonging is in and of itself a privilege, is a surprise to many of my friends that don't come from marginalized communities. But that embedded sense of mattering, that embedded sense of belonging, that is privilege. And when you think about it, privilege is not really the presence of a thing. It's really more about an absence of having to code switch or wear a mask when you enter the legal field or when you're working in a law firm, as I've had to do. It's the absence of fear when you encounter a police and law enforcement officer. It's this absence of questions about why you are a place, almost any place right now in this country. Privilege is not so much about the presence of a thing, it's about the absence of a thing. And that absence, that feeling, that lack of a feeling of belonging is really obstructive to movements and social change in this country. There's an old African proverb that says, a child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. And I think that this proverb was depicted in real time with the protests that followed the killing of George Floyd. Those protests really signaled to many of us that it's time for a social change movement that recognizes the value in all of our lives. It really signaled that if we do not feel the embrace of the village, that we often feel like we need to burn it down to feel its warmth. What's important to recognize about the connection between belonging and social change is it's really about our connection to each other, our connection to oneself, and our connection to our community. Belonging is about human connection and interaction. So is social change. Belonging is about love of self and love of others. So is social change. A sense of belonging unleashes human potential, and it's tied to dignity and the ability to live without shame, as is social change. And belonging starts with self-awareness, as does social change. As a leader in social change, you must first see you. You must find the value in your authenticity. You must recognize your worth. You must understand your why behind your social change movement. Here's the deal. It's critically important as a social change leader to know the people, to know and understand the people that you're leading, right? But the most important person to know and to understand as a leader in social change is yourself. This idea of knowledge of self is so important that it is one of the first C's in the 7C model of the social change model of leadership development. It's all about consciousness of self, being conscious of self, knowing who you are, knowing your strengths and your areas of improvement, knowing your likes and your dislikes, your desires, knowing what drives you, what your needs are, what motivates you, and walking in that authenticity. I want to challenge you to remember that self-awareness is about exploration. It's a practice. It's not something that has a destination. It is a journey. It's a process of a lifetime. And I want to challenge you to explore who you are. Do some journaling and some meditation. Find some time to explore who you are what drives you, what motivates you, and then identify the social change movements that align with who you are authentically. Oftentimes, we don't connect belonging and social change, when the reality is that belonging really is about our interaction with ourselves, but also how we interact and connect with the world around us. It's a two-pronged phenomenon. Sociologists define social change as changes in human interactions and relationships that transform cultural and social institutions. These changes occur over time and often have hugely profound and long-term consequences for our society. I mean, we've seen it with civil rights and with LGBTQ rights and with women's rights and voter rights and access to healthcare. These are just some obvious examples of where we've seen social change movements make changes to our lives. Individuals change, relationships change, our institutions change, our society changes, all because we take one step, one action towards social change and then use our collective power to move it forward. Our recent election of Madam Vice President-elect Kamala Devi Harris is evidence of the impact and power of social change movements, the women's rights movement, voters' rights movement, civil rights movement. And it doesn't matter your political affiliation. If you're a woman, if you're a person of color, if you're an immigrant, you have to be feeling an increased sense of belonging in this nation as an American, because belonging is necessarily about representation. It's about being seen for who you are authentically, but it's also about seeing yourself in the highest possible positions, in the boardroom, in decision-making roles. As my mother says, if you can see it, you can be it. And the reality is, one thing about our society and about social change is that it's constantly happening. And what this idea of using our collective power to change what the world around us looks like is really fostered in making sure that we are thinking about whose voice is at the table and who's being represented. I wanna remind you of this quote that says, "To be the change you wish to see in the world." I don't know whether it was Gandhi or Barack Obama who said it first. I don't think it matters. The idea is that it fosters in us this question of what kind of change do we wish to see in the world? I think about this question often. As a coach, as a belonging strategist, you know, my goal is to inspire and empower people to build inclusive, inspired, authentic lives and careers, and to build truly inclusive shared spaces, the places where we live, work, learn, play, and worship together. And I know those are lofty goals, but that's my vision of a better world. And so I want to ask you, what's your vision for a world, a better community, a better school? I'd like to suggest that no matter what that vision is, it starts with human connection. It starts with cultivating a sense of belonging. And how do you do that? By now, folks are usually asking, yeah, I'm Trace, but now what? How do we apply that? Well, in my workshops, I offer a 5-step approach that you can use to spark change in your communities. Because I truly believe from a little spark may burst a flame. The S in the SPARK model is about making space for authenticity. This idea of belonging is not about fitting in. If I fit in, I have to be like you. If I belong, I get to be me. Make space for me to get to be me. The P in the SPARK model is all about being PC, not being politically correct, but being people-centered. professionally competent, and personally compassionate. Being heart-centered, thinking about the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Be heart-centered, people-centered, professionally competent, and personally compassionate. Develop an acceptance mindset. Remember, no one wants to be tolerated, no one wants to be tokenized, and no one wants to be othered. We all want to be accepted as we are. And then we come to the R in the SPARK model, which is all about representation. And here, I really do want you to ask yourself, who is not in the room that needs to be? Whose voice is not being heard? And then do the work, the intentional, purposeful work it takes to fill that gap, to make sure that you're getting the full spectrum of the diversity of thought that's needed in social change movements. And then the K in the SPARK model is all about developing your knowledge about and starting to overcome your implicit biases. I want you to know we all have implicit biases. I have them, you have them, we all have them. And they're really meant to protect us and keep us safe. But what they often do is limit us. They limit our opportunities. They limit they keep our minds closed about people and ways of being and new cultures and learning and it really limits our worldview. So think about, come to know what your biases are and work to overcome them. I want you to know that anywhere that you are called or aspire to be, you belong. The reality is that our interests, our motivation, our health as human beings, and our happiness are tied to the feeling that we belong to a greater community that shares common interests, aspiration, or a common mission. Belonging is indeed the gateway to full self-esteem and true self-actualization. And when we feel like we belong, we're drawn, we're called to using our collective power. When we feel like we belong, we can come together as a team and more effectively use our collective power to bring our vision of a better life to fruition. And with that, I want to thank you for your time and your attention. I hope this has added some value. I look forward to answering any questions that you may have. I want to make sure that you have my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me if I can offer you any assistance along your social change journey. Thank you so much, and I hope that you enjoy all of what GCAPP has pulled together for you in the 2020 Youth Empowerment Summit.
Thank you. I love that, Martin. Thank you so much. You know, oftentimes we hear different messages about belonging, and hearing them sometimes in a different way really helps them to sink in. And I know that really hit home for me, because one thing I've heard from a lot of mentors, people like Oprah, if you guys know her, she always says, all human beings innately want to be heard and want to belong, want to feel loved. And so that message really also helped the other one that I heard from Oprah kind of just connect together. So a lot of opportunities there for you to, you know, ask yourself questions about if you belong or where you're being called to. And know that, to be honest, no matter what age you are, we all struggle with belonging. So if we start working on it now, when we get older, it might not be something that gives us so much anxiety. Okay, thank you guys again for sticking around. I see a lot of you are still here. Now we want to talk about GCAPP's Youth Advisory Council, and it serves as a group of ambassadors throughout the state, and they get to do a lot of really cool things. It's something that you might want to really look into if this is one of your callings, this is where you feel you belong. So we want to give you a quick video of the two youth ambassadors about what they're talking about on teens' minds, you know, what's on your minds, and how really GCAPP has helped them.
Right now, adolescents need as much support as possible. In the world that we live in today, things are absolutely insane. Teens are very worried.
There's a lot of, our parents don't get us. Many times there is also a lot of, I think people assume they know what all teens want.
You have the agency that you need to make life decisions for yourself that can generate and create the best future, or i.e. potential for your life as possible.
I think they're really good at spreading awareness and also at actually listening to what teens are saying, which a lot of times people don't do when they're talking about teens, which is very odd considering if you want us to change your behavior, you have to actually talk to us.
In a space that's not judgmental, in a space where they feel open and a space where they feel accepted.
This was the first time I actually felt like someone was listening and my voice was being heard, and they weren't just, saying they listened to me. That is vitally important, and it's an amazing experience to be a part of.
Awesome. See, we all want to be seen and heard, and that transcends through our years of growing up, just not when we're young. So it's good that you guys are learning about working on that right now. Okay. Also, it's time for some gift cards. I told you guys to stick around because this is going to be awesome. We have 2 gift cards, one for $50 and one for $100. You guys have to be present online. So in order for you to claim it, I'm going to give you the names right now. $50 gift card goes to Noor Safa. Are you in here? I hope you are. And the $100 card goes to Joshua Uribe. Congratulations to both of you. If you guys are here. If not, we have 2 other winners that we have to call from. And I think we can let you guys know about that now. If Mustafa and Joshua are even online presently to claim their cards, we have Sky, Hodge Hampton, or Sonsera Adams. So hopefully you guys are, and also stick around for later because we have to announce that grand prize and also that virtual internship. It runs for 8 weeks. And look how GCAPP really just goes big. All these amazing people we've heard from, I think they're so inspiring and have so much information to share. And they really tailor this 8-week virtual internship to how you work best or how you learn best. You can do it virtually, you can do it on social media, different kind of campaigns, public health initiatives. So it really helps you find your calling. Don't forget that we are going to announce that grand prize winner and the internship later on. So you want to stick around for that. Now we have presentation number 3, and it's all about teens' favorite way of communicating, social media. It can be wonderful. Reconnect, talk about fashion, just, see all friends, family, but it can also be damaging. And I know I have to really work on talking to my own teen about how to prevent anxiety or, being envious of other people's highlight reel, because that's what we see on social media, like the best moments of their life. So sometimes we compare and think like their life is so great and not ours. So really a lot of negative consequences when that you can also post certain things that can affect your job, your mental health, or if you get into college. So our next presenter is going to talk to us about this. He's from Kennesaw Teen Center. He will talk to you about flip the script and about how your social media image can really be a big part of shaping your future. So Mr. Johnson, take it away.
Good afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's session of Flip the Script. My name is Alois Johnson and I am the Executive Director of the Kennesaw Teen Center. And before we get started, I just want to thank you guys for participating in today's teen conference. It's a great opportunity in this day and time to get together and talk about things that directly impact you as teens. As a person who works with youth and teens, middle school and high schoolers on a day in, day out basis, it's an honor and privilege to be able to share and work with you guys as you prepare for your future. You're dealing with a lot of things right now. I know it's coming into 2020, no one expected that we would be doing things like this. in a virtual format. I go back to last year in January when I was hosting meetings and to try to save time, we were doing everything with a phone conference. I had never even heard of Zoom, and then in March it became a way of life. What I found during the last 8 months is that you use your phone a lot more, you're on the internet a lot more, you utilize a lot of different ways to communicate, which kind of leads us to today, where we're talking about another form of communication that many of you as teens, this is just your way of life. I was brought up, um, kind of age myself a little bit with a telephone, and that's how we communicated. We everything we did, we had to call someone. At one point, there was no even such thing as call waiting. So we got busy signals, and we had to call back if we wanted to communicate. But your day and age, everything is instant. Everything that you want to reach somebody, you can text them, you can instant message them, you can do a lot of things. You share your world with the rest of the world. So that's very different. But it's a way of life. You adjust to it. So today, what we're going to do is talking about this social networking concept. The theme of my presentation is called Flip the Script. So I'm going to show you how to make this work for you. Though you might be a freshman, you might be a sophomore, you might be a junior, you might be a senior. So we're going to show how to make this work for you or your future in the past, because everyone can see what you're doing. So you want to make sure that that you're doing some things that are going to set you up for a very prosperous future. So you want to think about, we use things like Facebook, we use Twitter, we use Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. Now I'm gonna be honest, I'm not as active on things like TikTok and Snapchat. That's kind of a generational type of things, but it's something that as employers, as college admission folks, they take a look at that. They get to learn a little bit about you. So today we're going to jump into all that. We're going to take a look at how you can flip the script to make this work for you. So before we get started, let me just give you a little of my background. As I said before, my name is Alois Johnson, and I'm the executive director of the Kennesaw Teen Center. And I'm an Indiana native. I moved here to Georgia in 2014, really because of the weather. And we've enjoyed our time here. I have a 15-year-old, so I live your world from a parent's perspective on a day-in, day-out basis. And so I'm learning as I go, because it's a lot different. I'm married, been married over 20 plus years. And I'm a very avid sports fan, not into the Georgia Bulldogs, Georgia scene, but I'm a diehard Cub fan. Yay, 2016. And I love basketball. I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan. I still think he's the GOAT. And LeBron's close, Kobe's there, but no one outshines Michael Jordan. So that's a little bit about me, so you can kind of get a good perspective of who you're talking to today or working with. And today I'm going to go through a presentation. We'll have a Q&A at the end. And so let's get going. So what we want to do is social media, networking media, your friend or a foe, okay? Now, what we're going to talk about, it can work against you if you don't do the right things. But if you flip the script, it can really work to your advantage. So we're going to show you how to learn how to use social media to work to your advantage. So today, we're going to talk about, a lot of you are on Instagram. Most of you, might not use Twitter, but we're going to show you how to utilize that. Facebook, I know that that's my generation, but having a Facebook account can work towards your advantage. Even utilizing things like TikTok and Snapchat, those things can work to your advantage. But keeping up with technology is important more than ever. You'll find certain aspects of technology that you enjoy a lot more. And you'll find some that you're like, I don't really know about that one. I don't really like utilizing it. But knowing all the things that are out there that you can utilize to build your social media profile and make it work for you is very important. So let me ask you a question. How private is the information on your page? Think about that. I know there's control factors that you can put on who can see what you put out there. So you want to make sure when you think about your privacy that you have the right control settings in place and who you want to see what. Okay. Another question you should ask yourself: who should you friend or follow? Okay, that's really important. Even those people that you talk to day in and day out is really important to think about. Being their friend on Facebook, being their connecting with them on Instagram, because a lot of times what they put on their page can be seen by others if they're a friend of yours. So you want to make sure that if someone is not doing appropriate things that you might not want a friend to follow. And I know what I do, and I'm gonna give you a little trick. So sometimes I don't want to insult people. They'll send me a friend request, and then I know you can track that. So I'll initially, this might sound bad, but I do this. I go ahead and I friend them. About 20 minutes later, I unfriend them. So they don't necessarily know that I unfriended them. And I just don't want to insult them because I know some of the things that they have done on Facebook or Instagram or things that I don't want to be representative of myself. But here's a little tip. When you think about people that you don't know, so like on Instagram, you can follow like celebrities and things of that nature, but that says a little bit about who you are. So you want to be conscious of that. But if you're thinking about your future, you're thinking about going to college, you're thinking about potential employment that you would like after high school, you can go ahead and start following those people. What it shows is there's a lot of interest. You get to learn a little bit about, in particular, let's talk about colleges here. So if you follow a college, you will get a lot of information about it. You learn what's happening on the school, at the particular school. You learn things such as the types of activities they're having. If they're a huge sports school, it keeps you up to date on it. But what it shows is a genuine interest in a place that you might end up spending a lot of time at. So I encourage you to follow people and organizations that you have a genuine interest in, but be careful also of who you do friend and follow, because that can be representative of who you are. Another question I like to ask is it okay to post pictures? Well, I think so. I would say that you want to look at the types of pictures you post. You want to make sure that you're posting things that are reflective of the image that you want to portray. The easiest way to think about it: would that be something I want my grandmother or grandfather to see? Okay, so if you have to even think about when I want them to see it, then you probably shouldn't be posting it. Another little tip, and we'll talk about a little later, is the amount of pictures you post. So I'm going to leave that there, but I want you to think about that: the amount of selfies that you put on there. And then the last thing that we talk about here is, can you use social media to help with your admission decisions? Most definitely. When you're thinking about the things that you're following, the schools that you follow, it's a good way to connect. In particular, right now, we're not allowed or we're not allowed, or we have to modify the amount of travel that we do. A lot of colleges right now are not allowing visits, or if they do, they're very modified. So this is a good way to keep up on what's going on with the school. Colleges now and universities are now utilizing Instagram and Facebook to really keep people up to date as to what's going on at their school. So let's think about who is looking at what you're doing on social media. So here's an interesting fact: the number of admission officers who looked up a student on social media increased from 25% to 36%. Okay, and then 19% of those schools said they do it a lot. They, when they want, if your name comes across their desk as an applicant, the first thing they do is go look at social media. What can I learn about this student? They know that you submitted your application. You're telling them what you want to hear. But let me find a little bit about this individual. I can tell you, as someone who has employed a lot of people, as social media became big, I have really utilized that as an employment help situation. So what I do is I get an applicant. What I would do is I go Facebook stalk them. I go look up, especially if they don't have the account settings in place where I can still see everything they do. And I can tell you, I find out a lot about a person that way. So I can tell you employers are looking, and I can tell you admission officers are looking. So it's really important to be careful of what you put on social media because people are looking. If you think about one way, an easy thing they do, and you say, well, how do they do it? Is they just Google you. You just type in Lois Johnson, and anything about myself that is public might show up on Google. Now, the unique thing about that, and some of us will go through it, is there's some things on there that are true, and there's some things on there that might not be so true or false, completely false. So, but it's a good idea at times to just go ahead and Google yourself to see what's out there, and then there's ways that you can go get that cleaned up. When you think about 32% of admission officers saying that they are looking at social media, and they say that it has had a negative impact. So, so you really want to be careful of what goes on social media. Maybe 1 second. All right. So here's some tips for social media success. Number one, untag yourself in unflattering photos and posts. So that's really important as you go through and you try to figure out what's going on. What do people, as you are tagged with people, and if it's not appropriate, untag yourself. Promote yourself. Put photos that highlight your accomplishments. So say you're an athlete. Go ahead, if you're a high school football star, it's football season right now, and you made a big play, go ahead and have that put on your Facebook page. It's really important. Like I said earlier, Google yourself, see what others see when your name is searched. I mentioned follow and like colleges that show that you have a genuine interest. Now here's a new one for you, and you might not realize this, but go ahead and create a profile on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a huge, a lot of people think it's for business networking, but it's a good professional look for yourself. There, you can also link with other schools, and you'll learn about colleges and their potential career paths. Okay, some other tips. Learn to use your username and handles, really important. Make sure that they're appropriate usernames or handles. So make it something, like I said, go use the grandmother, grandfather test. Would my grandmother or grandfather like this name? Okay. Find out what post you're tagged in. A lot of times I know you can't control that if someone tags you, but go back to what I said earlier, you can get yourself untagged. Be careful of what you're sharing, videos. I know there's a lot of things out there, but be careful of what you're sharing. And here's the one that is really important. Make sure that you delete posts that come across as ranting, grumpy, or mean. You ask yourself why. I know we're freedom of speech, very opinionated society, but you don't want to come off as that person when people are paying attention to who you are and what you're doing. Now, remember I talked about, do you post a lot of selfies? Okay, I know some people that are selfie kings, they're selfie queens, they love to put that camera up and get shots of themselves. But be careful of how many you post. And I want to tell you why. Because, let's go back. So what it does is you don't want people to think that you're too self-absorbed. Okay, so you want to make sure that your selfies are very, not saying that you don't that you don't have to take a lot of selfies. Just don't put them on your social media um, networks. All right. Now, what posts about you having a wide range? So be versatile. If you like sports, if you like music, if you like art, make posts all over the place. And follow people whose careers interest you. So as you think about people, celebrities, but don't just make it all about the music industry or the entertainment. Follow politicians, follow people that are very, very inspirational out there. I look at like Kamala Harris right now, who's running for vice president. Once she got the nomination, I started following her, and it's very interesting when you follow people's career tracks. Now, basically, what I like to kind of leave you with is, let your social media work for you. It's really important. You really send a message out there who you are. When you think about an employer looking at you, this is going to be a first impression. Because a lot of times they get a piece of paper about you, not necessarily a picture profile of you. So when they go on social media, if you're doing something that's not appropriate, that's what they think about you. So it can sway what they're thinking as they're reading about you. But if you have a lot of positive messages, a lot of positive pictures, they might be like, I really want to meet this person. So this is really you letting your message work for you. And so it's really important that as you work through your social media, whether you're on TikTok, whether you're on Snapchat, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on Facebook, and I know I introduced a new one to you of getting a LinkedIn profile, let it work for you. So as we leave, and we're going to be having a Q&A, write down questions that you might have for me, but we want to really leave you with the thought, make your message matter. So I want to thank you for your time as we flip the script on how to make your social media work for you. Thanks. And I'm going to leave you, remember, lots of choices out there, whether you, and I try to list as many as I can, but remember, there are lots of choices out there that can help you shape your future. I'm going to leave you with my email address. If you have questions, you can email me. Once again, my name is Alois Johnson, and I'm the Executive Director of the Kennesaw Teen Center, and you can reach me at ajohnson.ktc@gmail.com. Thank you.
That was awesome information. It's super important, guys. We all have to be careful with this. All of us. There have been so many cases where people didn't get a job or get into a school because of what we post on social media. And I actually wanted to share a personal thing. It's not even like just about be careful who we accept on our personal page. Just last week, as we know, the election is super passionate for a lot of people. And I posted the results. I'm a journalist. And somebody wrote, insulted me like, you're a hack of a journalist. We don't have the answers yet. And I might have responded by saying, listen, if you don't like facts, you're ignorant. Somebody screenshot that from my personal page and send it to my boss. So even if you trust people and you let them on your private page, you can still get in trouble. So be very careful. Just wanted to give you that personal example that I just went through last week. And it's scary because you feel like you could lose your job. Then you question, like, was it really worth it? And then you also feel betrayed by whoever you let onto your page. So I hope that helps. And like Tracy Ellis Ross mentioned earlier, we're really in an era of social injustice and racial reckoning. So this next presentation is about how the youth, can involve yourselves, but with a twist. So Amber Bradshaw, she's the managing and artistic director with Working Title Playwrights, and she's going to talk to us about infusing art and creating expression and the social justice movement. So how to really incorporate this all together. So this should be interesting. Take a look.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amber Bradshaw, and my pronouns are she, they. And I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm from the city of Atlanta. I went to Atlanta Public Schools, and I identify as a queer Southern multi-hyphenate theater maker. And this means that I do all the things, right? I direct, I develop, I perform, I produce. I also dance and do puppetry and drag and burlesque. So I also dabble in the performance arts. And I believe that storytelling can change the world. I believe that theater is a form of activism and can be used as a form of social justice. I believe that storytelling is so powerful that it can both move artists to action and really inspire audiences to make change. So, what I want to talk to you about today is what I do in the theater and potentially how you can use some of these tools that we have at Working Title Playwrights for yourself. And I have a few other ideas for you as far as how you can create during this time. So I am the managing artistic director of Working Title Playwrights. And Working Title Playwrights is basically the primary incubator of new plays in Atlanta. We have 116 members, most of which are local, although we do have people that live out of state. And we also have an ensemble that is 84 members. So that's our acting ensemble. And we've auditioned those folks and feel like they're really good at contributing to new play development and really enjoy that process, because it really is a process. So Working Title's mission is to provide playwrights with the opportunity to excel at their craft by fostering an environment that nurtures the creation of powerful, thought-provoking, and relevant plays that bring new diverse voices to the local and national stage. So what we really do is serve playwrights in the development of their work. In the last few years, we've developed a few 3 core values. And these values really guide everything that we do. And I encourage all artists to have their own values that they follow and lead them and guide them. So the values that Working Title Playwrights believes in and uses at the core of all of our programs are inclusion, brave space, and collaboration. So for inclusion, that means that we welcome artists of all backgrounds and circumstances, and we believe difference creates opportunity, not obstacle. We believe that diversity builds and encourages creativity. So brave space means that we know that creativity takes courage, and we strive to create a space that encourages challenging conversations in the context of mutual respect. And then for collaboration, our collaborative values assume that we enter into creative community in order to learn from one another. Collaboration thrives on curious listening and honest sharing. So those are our 3 core values. And let me tell you a little bit about what we do. So if you go to the Working Title Playwrights website, which is www.workingtitleplaywrights.com, which please feel free to do that now if you want to check it out. You can look at all of these programs in depth, and all the details are on the website if you are interested. So please feel free to check that out. And also, we're making some changes to our programs as well. So I'll talk a little bit about that and why we are doing that, because that is part of our work in equity in the theater community here in Atlanta. So we are all doing all of our programming online at Working Title Playwrights. We've really been able to adapt all of our programming to this online format because we don't produce plays. We create spaces to process and nurture creation, but we don't take it to final production. So this allows us to offer a space to artists that's free of the constraints of production schedules, tight timelines, things that may hinder a writer's ability to take risks or try something new, to be brave. So we really want to encourage that bravery and to write your own story. We really want that to lead you. So our Monday night critique sessions are a really important program for us. We do it twice a month, and our members can submit an excerpt of their work to be read by actors with a moderated session afterward. And that program has created a really important part of what we do, and a really big part of the equity aspect of what we do, and that's called the golden rules. So when we have moderated feedback, we make it really clear to our audience what kind of feedback we're looking for. So when you're developing theater, really any kind of art, it's really important to know what you are looking for from your audience if you're looking to get feedback. And the reason is because not all of that feedback is going to be useful. So if you can be really transparent about what you want from that audience, then potentially that feedback session could be really efficient and helpful for you. So one of the things that we ask is that people avoid using the words like or dislike. And the reason is because it's just not helpful to revising a script. Okay, so that's one of the things. We also ask people not to rewrite the play or suggest new narratives, because we want people to write their own plays rather than rewrite someone else's, right? And then we also ask that people be respectful both to those who have submitted work and those who are in the room with them. So speaking from I, acknowledging that your perspective is your own, and respecting everyone in the space and where they're coming from. So those are all really important things that we have encouraged people and really insist upon when we're doing feedback at Working Title. So, and we are restructuring that program, and I won't go too in depth with that, but we are changing the name of it from Monday Night Critique Sessions to Monday Night Development Workshops, because we want it to be less judgmental and more inclusive. And so a lot of the language that those of us in the arts use is really important. So thinking about language and how you use it and the ways in which you process work, it's all really valuable and really important. So thinking through that language is something we try to do a lot at Working Title. Our next program is the Table Series. And this program gives members the opportunity to work with a dramaturg on their new play. And so that may bring you to the question of what a dramaturg is. So dramaturgs are really sort of the lesser known artists within the theater world. And dramaturgs do a lot of different things in theater. But one of the things that they do for the new play development world is they act as sort of a first audience. And they give feedback to playwrights that we all hope is going to be very useful to them in rewriting and clarifying the story that they want to tell. So Working Title Playwrights hires and trains dramaturgs. So we try to teach people how to do this work and how to give playwrights feedback. And so the goal is really to find the play, and to make the storytelling as impactful as possible. Right? So in the new play world, dramaturgs are question askers, challengers, problem solvers, and nurturers. And when you're a playwright, you really want someone in your corner who identifies as a dramaturg, because they are trained to give you feedback. And that feedback hopefully is going to be more useful to you than someone who isn't trained to give you feedback. Now, that's not to say someone who isn't trained can't give you good feedback, but as an artist, it's really important to know what you want and know what kind of feedback you're looking for again. So a dramaturg can give you what you're looking for rather than potentially a reactive response to your work, which is definitely not as helpful, right? So dramaturgs are really important to equity in the theater. They bring perspectives and values to the process that may otherwise be overlooked. They really ask people to consider the communities in which the worlds are being written, the people that the worlds are being written about, and really go deeply into that subject matter. Historically, they bring a lot to the table. And they often bring, there's just about anything. Dramaturgs are a wealth of information, and hopefully also bring their own personal perspectives to the process. So at Working Title, it's really important to us that our dramaturgs reflect the work that's being done on the plays that we do, right? So that they can speak to whatever the content is of those plays. So our next program is the Ethel Wilson Lab, and this is our workshop. Essentially, it's a week-long workshop that a playwright recipient has 29 hours to develop a play with a cast, a director, a dramaturg, a stage manager, and a stage directions reader. It's a really in-depth process. There's a reading at the end. When these are live, we do them at the Alliance Theater, and the idea is that this play will be at a point at which it can move forward, right? It can be submitted somewhere else or produced somewhere else. So the lab is a really exciting opportunity for our members. And so one of the more exciting, at least for me, and more important things that Working Title does is that we support the work of Idea Atlanta. And IDEA Atlanta is a social justice organization, and it means Inclusion, Diversity, Equity in the Arts Atlanta. And IDEA is a committee of artists that are dedicated to training and education for ourselves and our community in equity, diversity, inclusion, and justice. And we educate ourselves in a lot of different ways. And we have developed different types of training to educate others. But we're still working on it, and we're always growing. So there's 6 of us that basically are this committee for IDEA Atlanta, and we were established in 2018. So in addition to doing workshops like an anti-bias training, for example, for the community, and bringing art equity down to Atlanta to do an 8-hour training, just an overall equity, diversity, and inclusion training for artists in Atlanta. Most recently, we've started working more in conversation, moderated feedback, and community engagement. So most recently, we developed the Town Hall for Racial Reckoning in Atlanta Theater. And we did this in partnership with CREATE, which is the Coalition for Racial Equity in Atlanta Theater. This event brought together over 400 members of the theater community for 2 nights of listening to our Black and non-Black theater makers tell their stories and their experiences of injustice and racism in the theater community. And I need to correct that. Black and non-Black artists of color tell their stories in the community. And so our white members of the community were welcome to listen, but not to speak. And so the final night was a night of healing for our BIPOC artists. And then 2 months later, we hosted the Town Hall 1.5, which we called the Path to Reconciliation. And this was where we provided a platform for our Atlanta producers to come together to develop equity action plans for their theaters. And we had about 65 people attend that event. 2 to 3 people from each organization were invited to attend, and we had 26 organizations in attendance. And then we will be doing a 3rd town hall that will invite these producers to present their action plans to the entire theater community and receive feedback on those plans. And we hope to do that in the next couple months. So that will be happening soon. So really the goals for IDEA ATL is to combat systemic racism by providing opportunities to do the personal work required to make changes within ourselves so we can make changes outside of ourselves. Right? So, and that moves me on to this question of how we can continue to create even in a time when live theater is not safe for us, right? So, as I said, everything Working Title is doing is virtual. And we've managed to alter that work to make it useful, even though it's really not the same, right? So, how can you do that yourself? How can you do that at home, right? So collaboration is something I talk to artists a lot about. One of the most important things you can do as an artist is to meet other artists and to reach out to them and to develop partnerships with them so that you can eventually create work, right? So collaboration is such an important part of being an artist. And so in that, the ways that you reach out to people, the ways that you find out what artists you want to know or who you want to work with is by showing up, right? Show up to their events, show up to the work that other folks in your community are doing. Show out, reach out, let them know that you want to have coffee, that you want to get to know them better, and that you really like their work. Right? So ask for what you want and what you need. And part of that is about believing that your art and your voice is valuable. And it really is. I can't emphasize that enough. Right? So, and if there's something that you deeply want, do not be afraid to ask for it, because sometimes that's the only way you're going to get what you're looking for. Okay? Because you're the person who can speak best about your perspective and what you want. Right? So how do you break open your ideas about Forum if you're not sure about this virtual platform? How do you approach it? Well, I think the question is, who's to say there's one way, right? It can be very exciting to explore these platforms and the ways in which they can sort of break your mind open. So how can you shift into a place where that form is functional for you? You know, when the pandemic hit, I really wanted to make some work, and I felt like any way I could do it was possible. And so I made a virtual dance piece with a friend of mine. We never met in person, and had some really wonderful responses to it. And it kept me moving and it kept me creating for 2 months where it was a really tough time. So even if, you know, it doesn't end up being some big production, doesn't mean it's not going to be a big part of your artistic life or teach you something, right? So there's so many different platforms and there's so many different ways to go about it. Google Hangout, Zoom, try outdoor performance, maybe the Beltline, your front yard, your backyard. You know, how do you make this safe? Check out how other artists are making it safe. You know, do your research online, start a list about what you want to do and how you want to do it. Get to those producers and attend their events. Lots of people are doing virtual events. If you know a producer or you've worked with them, don't be afraid to ask for an artist comp to see one of their virtual events. You know, find a way to access it. And then there's also grants available for artists. So you can look at Idea Capital, the Coalition for Racial Equity in Atlanta Theater, CREATE, which I think it's createatl.com, Synchronicity Theater's talent show that they're accepting submissions for right now. The Alliance Artist channel at the Alliance Theater website you can submit to. And these are sizable grants. Some are $5,000, some are $1,000, some are $500, right? And then prompts, programs to work for, to watch out for with working title playwrights would be our Rosalind Ayers Williams Scholarship for Black playwrights, our Pay What You Can and regular memberships. We're also doing student memberships, I believe, for half price. And then we also have an apprenticeship. So check those out on the website. And if you have any questions for me, please reach out. My email is managing@workingtitleplaywrights.com. And again, my name is Amber Bradshaw, and it's a great honor to be with you today. And I thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day.
Awesome. I love it. I love the Creative World Theater is my favorite. So thank you so much, Amber, for sharing all this information and how people can really combine their creative passion and express themselves and, you know, for the greater good. We all need it, especially right now. So this really is the end of our presentation, and we really hope that we've, you know, hit the mark on a lot of the topics that you had questions about, and just doubts and better ways to express yourself or better ways to get information. Actually, I think right now at your screen, there should be a chat option. There's a link. What's really important is hearing from you guys, hearing which way you want these courses to go or what other information you guys need. So if you go to that survey, it would be so helpful for us. I also know that right now coming up, you're going to be able to network with some of the presenters, which were so awesome. I learned so much from them, and I hope you guys did as well. And it's that time you've been waiting for. We have that grand prize. It's a big announcement for you guys. It's $500 Best Buy gift card and a 2021 GCAPP virtual internship. Okay. So the $250 gift card as well goes to Zoe McCluskey. I believe you have to be right now online if you want to be able to collect that. And Zoe, congratulations. $500 gift card is for Peyton Jesse. So congratulations to you. I hope you guys are still online. Okay, so GCAPP will let you guys know via email and follow up with you regarding those prizes. I think that it's awesome. I hope you guys use it. $250, $500 for you guys. Again, Zoe McCluskey, and you get the $250 gift card. Peyton Jesse, you get the $500 gift card. Congratulations to both of you. And I want to thank all of our presenters. We've had the 4 amazing presenters today, which was Janani Montrese, Mr. Johnson, Amber Bradshaw. Of course, thank you so much to Tracy Ellis Ross for amazing, powerful speech and sharing her personal journey with us. I know sometimes that is so difficult, but it really helps other people have connection with you when we hear your personal stories. And now we have the winner of our 2021 internship, Dorothy. I don't want to mess up your last name, Dorothy. I'm so sorry because I know people mess up Ashton and I know the feeling. Dorothy Akporok. Congratulations, AKPOROKAH. So congratulations to all of you. Again, thank you so much. We really encourage you to stay for that networking part in our Q&A with the presenters. If you have questions, I know you can't ask me personally, but you can ask the experts. And for all of you staying, you can actually pick 4 topics that you want to learn about. While I've been talking to you guys, I actually just got a puppy. She's right here. She wants to say bye. And thank you so much for having us. She's been clawing at my feet and nails while I've been talking to you guys, but it's been such a pleasure. It's an honor for me. Enjoy the rest of your day.
I'm a savage, attitude nasty, talk big, but my bank account match it. Hood, but I'm classy, rich, but I'm ratchet. Haters kept my name in their mouth, not a gagging. Bougie, he say the way that thing move, it's a movie. I told that boy we gotta keep it lowly, me the room key. I done bled the block and now it's have the tune G. I'm mood and I'm moody. I'm a savage, classy, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, acting stupid. What's happening? What's happening? I'm a savage, classy, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, hacking stupid. What's happening? What's happening?
Hips tick tock when I dance. On that demon time, she might start her OnlyFans. Big B and that B stand for bands. If you wanna see some real, baby, here's your chance. I say left cheek, right cheek, drop it low and swing. Texas up in this thing, put you up on this game. I be parking my frame, gang, 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 gang. If you don't jump to put jeans on, baby, you don't feel my pain. Please don't give me hype, write my name in ice. Can't argue with these lazy basics, I just raise my price. I'm a boss, I'm a leader, I pull up in my 2-seater, and my mama was a savage. You got this here from Tina, I'm a savage, yeah.
Classy, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, acting stupid. What's happening? What's happening? I'm a savage, yeah. Classy, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, hacking stupid. What's happening? What's happening? Like Beyonce, like me. He wanna like the stallion with the knees. He be like, damn, how that thing moving in the jeans. Even D4L couldn't do it like me, Ooh, I got this body ready just for you. Girl, I hope you don't catch me messing around with you. Talking to myself in the mirror like, sit you my boo. I need a mop to clean the floors, too much drip. Ooh, I keep a knot, I keep a watch, I keep it real. Ooh, let's play a game. Simon says I'm still in check. I'm still in black. Yeah, I'm a savage. Classy, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, acting stupid. What's happening? What's happening? I'm a savage. Classy, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, hacking stupid. What's happening? What's happening?
They asking for the queen to buy some cameras in here. I'm a bad piece of savage, no comparison here. I'ma flip my hair and look back while I twerk in the mirror. All this money in a room, think some scammers in here. I'm coming straight up out that third. Whip the whip like I stirred it. Wood grain, we swerving, keeping his mind all on these curves. Coop fly like a bird, cold on them like birds. Always keep my word, no I don't do crosswords. Sell you in a writing like them hot girls, them hits. I hop this hit the way I hopped out and slid. I pop my lip, now watch me pop up again. I mop the float, now watch me sweep up these ends.
I'm a savage. Classic, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, acting stupid. What's happening? What's happening? I'm a savage. Classic, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, acting stupid. What's happening? What's happening? I'm a savage.
It's the stallion and the beat. H-Town going down.
Wait. Renegade. Go. 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 Yeah.
go, 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 go. Let's go. Cash on me, like I hit the lottery. Trip, watch on how they follow me. Wait, honey's blue, yeah, I got them all on me. Go, 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 let's go. Prada shoe, yeah, I keep a style on me. Pretty freaks, make them big pile on me. I swear, red party, I got 30 thou on me right now. Go, 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 let's go. To my cake, all these people want a piece. 10 racks, I threw 10 on top my teeth. Diamond choke, VVS, I can't breathe. Go, 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 let's go. Saint Laurent, Mommy Year, Givenchy, Gucci goggles, Gucci buckle, Gucci skis. You gon' cut there, we know they're free. Go, 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 let's go. Cash on me, like I hit the lottery. Trip, watch on how they follow me. Wait, honey's blue, yeah, I got them all on me. Go, 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 let's go. Prada shoe, yeah, I keep a style on me. Pretty freaks, make them big pile on me. I swear, red party, I got 30 thou on me right now. Go, 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 let's go. I know shooters in DC, Bradley Bill. Shouted dick, she said I don't miss no meals. But it broke, you know you can't front the bill. Go, 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 let's go. Shrimp and lobster, his and hers, it's a date. He gon' eat, she gon' eat, it's a plate. Make them racks, spin them racks, give or take. Go, 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 let's go. Cash on me, like I hit the lottery. Trip, watch on how they follow me. Wait, honey's blue, yeah, I got them all on me. Go, 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 let's go. Prada shoe, yeah, I keep a style on me. Pretty freaks, make them big pile on me. I swear, red party, I got 30 thou on me right now. Go, 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 let's go. Wait, 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 wait.
If I woke up without you, I don't know what I would do. Thought I could be single forever till I met you. Usually don't be falling fast. You got a way of keeping me coming back to back. I just found out the only reason that you loving me was to get back at your ex-lover, but before you leave, usually I would never even care. Baby, I know you're creeping, I feel it in the air. Every night and every day I try to make you stay, but you're savage love. Did somebody break your heart? Looking like an angel, but you're savage love. When you kiss me, I know you don't get to, but I still want that. You're savage love. You're savage love, love. You're savage love, love. You could use me, cause I still want that. Baby, I hope that this ain't karma, cause I get around. You wanna run it up, I wanna lock it down. Usually don't be falling fast. You got a way of making me spend up all my cash. Every night and every day I try to make you stay, but you're savage love. Did somebody break your heart? Looking like an angel, but you're savage love. When you kiss me, I know you don't get to, but I still want that. You're savage love. You're savage love, love, love. You're savage love, love, love. You could use me, cause I still want that. You're savage love. You're savage love, love, love. You're savage love, love, love. You could use me. savage love. Your savage love, love, love. Your savage love, love, love. Girl, you could use me, 'cause I still want that. Your savage love.
Ba-ba-da, ba-ba-da-ba-da. My boy's being sus. He was shady enough, but now he's just a shadow. My boy loves his friends like I love my split ends, and by that I mean he cuts them off. My boy, my boy, my boy don't love me like he promised. My boy, my boy, my boy, he ain't a man, sure as hell ain't honest. My boy's being sus, and he don't know how to cuss. He just sounds like he's trying to be his father.
Who are you?
My boy's an ugly crier, but he's such a pretty liar. And by that I mean, he said he changed. My boy, my boy, my boy don't love me like he promised. My boy, my boy, my boy, he ain't a man, sure as hell ain't honest. My boy, my boy, my friend, I love my split ends. My boy, love, my boy, love,
Alright, dude. Go trip over a knife.
my boy, my boy, my boy don't love me like he promised. My boy, my boy, my boy, he ain't a man, sure as hell ain't honest. You want me to be yours, well then you got to be mine. And if you want a good girl, then goodbye. You want me